Hey everybody, Mo here, and in this video I'm bringing you guys a deck guide for dummies, deck guide for you dummies on the Zed Sivir deck that Ruben created and popularized, and then there's been a lot of different iterations of it going around. I know it hit rank 1 in like SCA, I know it's rank 2 in North America right now. It's just been doing really well. And I don't really know of a deck name for it, so I've just been calling it Zed Sivir or Sivir Zed. And so this is a deck guide. So the deck, at first glance, looks very basic. It's like, oh, it's just like a mid-range style deck with a few combat tricks. But it's really a lot more complicated than that. There's a bunch of like little micro combos. There's a bunch of like little things. Like before I can actually like explain to you guys how good this deck is and how strong it is and why it's a tier 1 deck, I have to you have to know what the meta's like right now. And right now, the like tier 1 and tier 1.5, 1.5 decks in the meta all share a couple things in common. Basically, one is they all have a really high power on their average draw. So that means like on average in each of their games, their raw power is going to give them enough advantage to be better than a lot of the other decks. And that's why, they're tier 1. But number 2, the second thing, and this is the most frustrating part to a lot of people, is the deck's ability to have some nutty high roll style game. So if you look at a good majority of the tier 1, tier 1.5 decks, for example, like Azir Aurelia, Pirates, Lee Sin, Thralls, Lurk, Karma, Ezreal, all of those decks are just really strong. Their average curve is really strong. They all have a bunch of, hard hitters and power cards in them. And I think, they all have something very clearly that's good. But all of those decks also have an insane nut draw that makes it to where your opponent can't really win the game or can't play. Like Azir Aurelia obviously can kill you on turn 5 through your opponent having, 6 or 8 blockers. Lee Sin and Karma Ezreal can have some stupid draw where they get 2 Eye of the Dragons, and now you as a mid-range deck can never attack them, and it just buys them enough time before Lee Sin can kill you in one turn, or Karma Ezreal kill you in one turn. Thralls can put 2 or 3 8/8 overwhelm units into play on turn 4 with the right draws. Pirates can open with 5 1-drops or this nutty hand where they empty their entire hand and just kill you on turn 4. Lurk can also just kind of kill you with a leveled Rek'Sai like on turn 3 and turn 4. It's just all of these decks have the dumbest nut draws, and that's kind of why Zed Sivir fits into the deck. So it fits in because the average power is really high of it being able to take advantage of the vulnerable mechanic and the quick attack mechanic, and on top of that, and just gaining the small advantages of that, they have these insane nut draws of being able to just like OTK your opponent. And each of these little micro combos that the deck has aren't necessarily game winning themselves, but they each provide you so much value, whether that's board control or damage or something of that nature, that it prevents you with so much of that value that every single combo that you present to your opponent, you're basically saying like, hey, deal with this combo or I gain such an advantage that you're going to be playing from behind the entire game. And then any good player, anybody that knows how to play this deck, can definitely take those small advantages that you gain and then just run away with the deck. That's why you see some people on this deck have a 60-70+% win rate, and then other people will just sit around the like 55% win rate. Those are the differences between the players that know everything about this deck and know when they're ahead, when they can start being like a boa constrictor and just tightening up the grip on your opponent when you have the lead. And so that's what the goal of this video is for, is to make sure that you guys can know or at least learn all of the combos in the deck. So that way, whenever you get into a position of power, when you become the advantaged player, you can just kind of run away with that and just not even look back and not give your opponent a chance to even come back into the game. So in that, we're going to be going over the different, why each card is in the deck, go over the different micro combos each card has. We're going to go over mulligans in this deck, and then I'm going to have a link to my Discord where I'm going to have an actual matchup guide so you know what you want to kind of look for and how you want to mulligan and play against each other tier 1 deck at the end of this video. So before we get into the video, I just want to ask you guys, remind you that 86% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me. So if you guys can do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button, it helps me out super much with the YouTube algorithm, and it's free and easy to do. As well as if you change your mind later on, you can always just unsubscribe, and it's also free and easy to do. So that's it for the intro. Hope you guys enjoy the deck guide. Hey everyone, Mo here, and before the video begins, I just want to let you guys know that my schedule is opened up for me to do coaching again. So if you're interested in private one-on-one coaching for me to help you, whether you're a newer player and you want to excel at the game very quickly and learn the fundamentals without developing any bad habits early, or if you're an experienced player who's already maybe platinum or diamond and you're top 1%, but you need some help filling in the gap to get you to that 0.01%, to make you just some of the best, then hit me up on Discord and I can get you in some private one-on-one coaching lessons to help you polish up any skills you want to refine and help you learn all of the secrets to becoming a top player. That's it. I hope you enjoy the video. Alright, so now I'm going to just go over each card in the deck, and this is, people call it my version. This deck was, this version was literally handed to me by a Southeast Asian player named Calamantis, and I don't know where he got the deck from. I just know that he gave it to me, and you know, it was the first version that played like Spirit's Refuge. It was the first version that played like Profiteer and Inspiring Mentor. So I'm gonna give him credit for it, even though I kind of, did really well. Basically, the dude handed me the deck and I had a 70% win rate. I think it was like 73% or something, but anyways, yeah, just so you guys know, as I didn't make this deck, I just kind of played it really well. So what I'm going to do is go over why each card is in this variation of the deck, the variation that I think is the best, and then I'm going to go over all of the combos with each card, including anything from a tiny micro combo that gives you a small advantage to even the big combos that help you just win the game and kill your opponent without them expecting it. So we'll just start at the top and go to the bottom. So with Ghost, Ghost is basically in here for two reasons. One, you put it on a big unit mid-game to end the game. Surprisingly, like, you can ghost a Rune Runner if your opponent has a bunch of blockers, or if you have like a Profiteer or something. You ghost that unit, buff it up with like a Twin Disciplines or a Shapestone, and then boom, now you have this 9-power elusive unit, and that's a free, that's a free way to steal a game. Inspiring Mentor is in here for the anti-aggro curves. So I found a lot of the times I'm losing with this deck was against aggro. So this felt really good to be able to have a 1-mana 2/1 to be able to block the 1-mana 3/2s and other 1-mana units. And it's just a good way to keep up with the board advantage instead of just getting super swarmed down. And then the +1 attack is nice. You can put it on your Ruin Runner so you get that extra overwhelm damage later on. You can put it on Merciless Hunter, so it has 5 attacks, so it can kill stuff like Azir. It can also, because it's at 5 attack, it triggers Reputation for the Sivir spell. You can put it on the +1 attack from Mentor onto your Zed, so if you're against like a control matchup, Zed could be really good. It represents, 8 damage now instead of 6, but mostly it's in here just for an anti-aggro card. Shapestone's in here, just nice cheap combat trick, as well as a way to just sneakily push out insane amounts of damage. Like, you just go, okay, here's 1-mana 3 damage for you. Like I said earlier, if you want to put it onto that elusive unit, you start getting a bunch of elusive damage in out of nowhere. If you have a Flurry of the Fist double strike unit, this now turns into 1-mana deals 6 damage, and it's pretty crazy. Treasure Seeker is again in here for anti-aggro, as well as it's just one of the best units in the game now for Shurima. It gives you a lot of pressure because it's not just like a 1-mana 2/1, it's a 1-mana 2/1 that makes a 2 spell mana 5/2. That card can be like, this Waking Sands is so good. It can be used for defense if you're playing against, mid-range decks. It can be used for offense to just push a bunch of damage for no reason. Like, you get to push for 2 spell mana, you're summoning this big ass unit. That always feels really good. So that's why Treasure Seeker's in here. This card should be auto included into any Shurima deck ever. Preservarium's in here. This is so you don't run out of cards in the mid to late game. I try to not play Preservarium on 2 if I don't have to. Most of the time I'm using Preservarium is after my turn 5, once I've played my Ruin Runner, and it's not my attack token. I like to be like, okay, I'm not attacking anyways. If I can't develop into lethal, then I'm just going to go ahead and just play this Preservarium. That way I can refill my hand a little bit, get some cards back. It's also a nice way to trigger Shapestone. The only landmarks we really play is the 3 Rock Hopper and the 2 Preservariums. And then now it helps us with Shapestone. So sometimes you do play Preservarium on turn 2. If you have absolutely no play, might as well play it, trigger the Shapestone, draw some extra cards there on turn 5. Be pretty happy with yourself. Turn 4, be pretty happy with that. But for the most part, this is just in here because you don't actually have a way to draw cards and refill your hand. Rockhopper is one of the best cards against the mid-range decks. This card is really, really bad against Shadow Isle, Freljord control, or just control in general, but it's really, really super good in like the mirror match against Sivir LeBlanc, any other mid-range deck. This card is absolutely bonkers. And it's also the first card I'm going to start talking about in the little micro combos. So Rockhopper summons a Roiling Sands, and that gives vulnerable to an enemy. When you give vulnerable to something, you'll notice that a lot of this deck synergizes super well with giving vulnerable to things and then making really, really good trades because you can have quick attack or you can give things quick attack. And that's, you know, it's really crazy that it took this long for people to recognize that that's good. That giving quick attack onto a vulnerable unit is great. People realized that giving quick attack to a challenger unit was good, you know, a long time ago. That's why we did it with things like, you know, there are a few people that played Young Witch and their Shin Fiora decks. I'm talking about like 6+ months ago. People were doing, you know, this little tech for the mirror matches and stuff like that. And it's so crazy that for it to be brought to our attention that, oh, hey, you can do that same combo just with vulnerable, and it have to be like a Rioter game developer that showed us that combo was really funny and kind of sad for us players. But yeah, it's a lot easier to give other units vulnerable than to give your units play like challenger. So that's basically what Rockhopper is here for. That's what a lot of this mini combos are going to be revolving around, giving things vulnerable and then making good trades. You go like, okay, turn 2 Rockhopper, and then they play a unit. Now you go turn 3 Young Witch. You're now using the Rockhopper to pull in the vulnerable unit, but because Rockhopper has quick attack, I always want to call it first strike, but since it has quick attack, you're not like trading your Rockhopper for a unit. You're just killing the enemy unit. It's just like a free kill. It's just absolutely nuts. And also, you know, Roiling Sands triggers your Shapestone. So that's really what Rockhopper is in here for. It's a 2-drop that can block fearsome units and block, you know, large butt units early on, as well as it combos with things like Young Witch, Flurry of the Fist, and then it gives vulnerable to things like Sivir later on, which is really, really good. Next we're talking about Twin Disciplines. This doesn't have any really like combos as much as Twin Disciplines just is a broken card. Riot just recently buffed this in the most recent patch 2.11 to 2 mana, give an ally +3, +0, or +0, +3. Yeah, this card's not really balanced in any way, shape, or form, and it's really surprising to me that people aren't talking about it more. But yeah, this is kind of just 2 mana, my unit will never die, or 2 mana, I'm killing you. And that's really, really funny. So this card's in here for basically those reasons. You want to use it to save your unit, like if you're against Shadow Isle, Freljord control, or Thralls, you play Zed on turn 3, their only play is to Avalanche, and then you go, okay, Twin Disciplines, give my Zed health, now I'm attacking you and I have a leveled Zed on turn 3. There you go, and your opponent can't do anything. Or vice versa, if you're attacking with a double strike unit or an elusive unit or an overwhelm unit, you go, okay, 2 mana, give my unit +3 attack, and I'm killing you. Young Witch is primarily in here to 1, make good trades with vulnerable and quick attack, like we talked about previously, and then 2, it combos with Flurry of the Fist. Flurry of the Fist is actually the biggest combo card in the deck, and we're going to get to that in a second. But the way Young Witch combos with Flurry of the Fist, and I've seen a lot of people get this wrong, is you have to attack first, and then you have to lock in your attack. After you lock in your attack, that's when Young Witch gives quick attack to your ally. It doesn't give it before or while you're attacking. You have to actually lock in the attack button, and then your opponent has to give you priority back by either blocking or casting a spell. If your opponent gives you priority back, now, because Young Witch gave something quick attack, you can Flurry of the Fist on that unit, and it will permanently gain double attack. So if you represent lethal, or if you're just attacking with, you know, 3 units, and your opponent goes, okay, I'll block the non-quick attack unit to make a good trade. You go, okay, boom, 3 mana, burst speed, Flurry of the Fist. You now give that unit +1 attack and double strike for permanently. And that's a really good way to just cheat out a bunch of wins, because your opponent's, it's really hard to play around Flurry of the Fist, because you don't want to block the first strike unit, because then you're losing a unit for free and you're not making a good trade. But on the other hand, you don't want to block a separate unit to give your opponent priority so they can then Flurry of the Fist you, and then now you're just taking like twice as much damage as you were expecting, and you just get absolutely blown up. Now we'll talk about Flurry of the Fist, and that's basically what it's used for, is just quick attack, and this is a good way to cheat wins. Flurry of the Fist, the ways we have to give first strike in this deck are Young Witch gives first strike, as well as Profiteer can give first strike. It's one of the lucky finds. one of the lucky find options is, quick attack, and then Sivir has quick attack. So Flurry of the Fist is really good on Sivir. If Sivir is leveled, everything gets double strike, and you just kind of end the game. If you can give Flurry of the Fist onto Ruin Runner, if you can give Ruin Runner double strike, then you kind of just end the game because you have this ginormous Overwhelm Spell Shield quick or double strike unit, and most decks can't deal with that, or at least deal with it efficiently. And this card alone it looks very goofy and cheesy, but it's so funny to have to try and play around with this card. It makes your games really, really difficult. Merciless Hunter, it's just an extremely well-statted body. It randomly has a fearsome keyword that I don't know why. So it's like a 3-mana 4/3 fearsome unit, which is pretty good. On top of that, it gives vulnerable, which we've already talked about how vulnerable combos into a lot of these. You can go Merciless Hunter on turn 3 into Sivir turn 4 is a very popular curve. Again, you can play Young Witch on turn 2, Merciless Hunter turn 3. That's another very popular curve, and that gives you board advantage. Zed is in here just because it's a nice aggro style body, and it's really, really good against all of these control decks. Again, paired with the Twin Disciplines, if you want to play maybe Nopify, so you can just go, okay, I'm slamming Zed on turn 3, Mr. Control Opponent, you have to deal with this Zed card or it's going to kill you. And things like Twin Disciplines and Nopify make it very, very hard for your control opponent to actually deal with the Zed on turn 3. So that's why Zed is in here. Action is coming out in a couple of days. I'm almost 100% certain that Action is just going to completely replace Zed. It's not that Zed is bad, it's just not, like, good. I've even seen people play, like, Renekton over Zed, just because you're already giving things vulnerable. You might as well just play this big ol' Renekton unit. The only problem then is it just doesn't fit the curve. So, one, it fits the curve really well because Zed is a 3-drop. I think Action is also a 3. It's either a 3-drop or a 2-drop. I think it's a 2-mana 2/2. But it's another cheap unit that helps you fill out your curve really, really well, which is one of the reasons why I don't like Renekton in this. But anyways, that's why Zed is in here. It's probably getting replaced by Action. Palm and Deny, these are just good utility cards. Palm is for like the mirror match or other mid-range units. If they give your Sivir vulnerable and they try and pull in your Sivir, boom, concussive palm. If you're playing against, it's the best way to play against Lurk. They play Rek'Sai, boom, concussive palm, anything like that. I mean, Conk Palm is just a good way to push overwhelm damage as well, and it's just a very good defensive tool. One Deny, just because Deny is great. Most of the time, your control opponents only ever have time to cast like one real spell, like one Avalanche or one Ruination, and if you can play the entire game while holding up a Deny and you can develop, and then they go, okay, spend 9 mana on this Ruination card, oh, okay, well, I'm going to deny that, and then now you win the game because your opponent's tapped out. After that, Profiteer. Profiteer is an insane card that I found in this list that a lot of people don't like. Some people are playing Fey Guide instead. For those of you that don't know, Fey Guide is a 4-mana 3/4 that gives a unit elusive. The reason I like Profiteer over Fey Guide is it's just more versatile. If sometimes you need to give your unit, Challenger to clear up the board in a mid-range matchup, Profiteer can do that. If you're against a control matchup, you need to give your unit either more health or tough so it doesn't die to these board wipes like Avalanche, it can do that. If your Sivir lost Spell Shield, Profiteer can find you Spell Shield. And it's so versatile, more than just going, okay, I give my Sivir elusive and my whole team gets elusive. And that's why I like Profiteer a lot more than Fey Guide. I've seen people run like one Profiteer, one Fey Guide. I think that's fine. But Profiteer is really just in here to help your leveled up Sivir do stuff, as well as Profiteer is in here to make your Ruin Runner even more broken. Like, imagine not needing a leveled Sivir. If you don't have leveled Sivir, you just go, okay, play Ruin Runner, play Profiteer, give your Ruin Runner first strike or quick attack, and then now, boom, you basically have a Sivir. It's just better because it has Overwhelm. As well as Profiteer can give Sivir Overwhelm, and now your entire team has Spell Shield, Quick Attack, and Overwhelm, or maybe even double attack Overwhelm, and it just gets nutty. The way Profiteer is so versatile and helps you in a lot of matchups. As well as it's just like a big ass body. Like, you ever notice this girl just has like 5 attack for no reason? It's a real threat. Like, people have to block this, and all the units in this deck have a decent amount of power, so you're like, oh hey, I'm playing a Profiteer on my Sivir, so now I'm making my Sivir or my Ruin Runner really big and really good, but you also have to respect the fact that this unit is doing 1/4 of your life total every single time. Sivir, it doesn't really need much explanation. The card's kind of just super statted. This just got buffed in the most recent, again, 2.11 patch, to where you only need 30 damage to level now, so Sivir is leveling just about every single game I play her. She's either leveling or I'm winning the game before I level her. And if she ever does level and you can give her things like lifesteal, or if you can give her Overwhelm, double attack, elusive with Ghost, then your entire team gets those stats, and the game is just pretty dunzo from there. If you ever level a Sivir, the game is usually over. That's why she's in here. Spirit's Refuge. Again, I think this was the first deck, and me playing it on ladder kind of popularized the Spirit's Refuge idea. So my win rate was, I think it was like 74% or 75% or something like that with this deck. But that's because I was mainly hitting the mirror match, because the deck kind of blew up in popularity on the day Ruben hit rank 1 with it. And Spirit's Refuge is an absolute blowout in the mirror match, because the way it works is you're both playing these quick attack units, and you're both playing ways to get vulnerable. So they go, okay, I'm going to give your Sivir vulnerable and then pull it in with my quick attack unit, like my Sivir. And so now I'm going to win because I killed your Sivir for free with my quick attack Sivir. And Spirit's Refuge just completely turns the tables. It flips all of that around, and now your Sivir has, you know, barrier and you're gaining life, so your Sivir kills their Sivir, and you're doing a bunch of extra damage. It also negates the damage that, you know, their unit does, so it doesn't even count towards their Sivir's level up. And it's also just a really, really nice anti-aggro tool. I felt most of the time when I was losing, it was too aggro, so having a way to gain, you know, 6 life off of a Ruin Runner, or gain 5 life off of a Sivir was most of the time really, really nice. And the last card in here is just Ruin Runner. Is the best Shurima unit, best Shurima mid-range unit by far. It's just big ass body with spell shield and overwhelm. So it you just give this thing first strike, you give other units vulnerable. Like if you give a 1 health unit vulnerable, boom, you pull it in with Ruin Runner, there's guaranteed 5 damage. So all of the combos, all of the things you can use to buff Sivir and make Sivir really good, you can also use that on Ruin Runner, and you're basically playing a 9 champion deck where you can buff either Zed, Sivir, or Ruin Runner and just completely run away with the game. So I know that part of the video was a lot longer than going over the cards usually is, but that's because that was the that's basically the entire video, is just making sure you guys understand how to use each card properly. Because if you're not utilizing each of these cards to their maximum potential and using them for all these micro combos, like even little things like I said, you know, Rock Hopper into Young Witch or Young Witch into Merciless Hunter, if you're not doing stuff like that and you don't know all these little things you can be working with and the Profiteers, then you're gonna find success with the deck, just because again, it's just really strong, and you can find these dummy OTK kills with like double Flurry of the Fist onto a Ruin Runner. But the way you can up that to an extra, you know, go from a 55% win rate to a 60% win rate is by knowing all of the little things. And that's really what I wanted to touch on in this video. Or not really touch on, but go in depth on and make sure you guys understood. So that was all of the combos in the deck, and at least, you know, to my knowledge, and this version, that's all of the combos you can do with this deck, why each card is in here, the purpose they serve. And so now you can take this deck out and you should feel confident knowing that you know how to use every card correctly, and that you can push all of your advantages really well. So the last part of this video is just going to be a mulligan guide, a quick mulligan guide. The mulligan's very simple. And then I'm going to have a matchup guide in my Discord. If you want to check the link in the description of this YouTube video, to a link to my Discord, I'll have a matchup guide in there for free. And that'll tell you what cards are like key cards into each specific matchup, and then what cards you want to look out for against each specific matchup. So let's get into this last portion of the mulligan guide, and then I'll do the outro. Alright, so for the last part of this video, we're just going to go over the general mulligans with this deck. I'm just going to give you a very generalized mulligan for if you don't know what you're playing against. I'm going to give you a mulligan advice for the 3 major archetypes, which are going to be when you're playing against aggro, when you're playing against control, when you're playing against mid-range. And then if you're wanting information for mulligans and how to play versus very specific decks, again, I'm going to have that matchup guide over on my Discord that you can check out in the link in the description. So for just a very generalized mulligan, some mulligan tips is I never mulligan away Sivir. I always keep Sivir. I always keep Flurry of Fists. And then I just look for cards that help you with the curve. So the 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop are always, you know, really good cards. The only time I don't keep Flurry of Fists is against aggro, if you don't have any other units. Like if your hand is nothing but Flurry of Fist, I just mulligan to try and find early game units. That's the only exception to not keeping Flurry. Other year, I'm always keeping Sivir, and then I'm just going to be looking for early game curve. So like a 1-drop unit, 2-drop unit, you know, 3-drop unit Sivir, like 1-drop, 2-drop spell Sivir is really good. When you're against aggro, the cards that you really want to see are Inspiring Mentor, Treasure Seeker, and then like Rock Hopper, Young Witch are all the cards that are really good. Basically all of your early game units that Inspiring Mentor and Treasure Seeker are really good blockers. and then Rockhopper, Young Witch help you start taking control of the board little by little. Your main goal when you play against aggro is just run them out of cards. So hopefully with all of your blockers from your 1-drops and then gaining board advantage from vulnerable quick attack should let you run them out of units fast enough before your life total gets too low to where you just start dying to decimates. Against mid-range, the curve you just want is you want Rockhopper really, really badly, and then you want like Rockhopper, Young Witch, Sivir are going to be the 3 biggest cards, and then like 1 Twin Discipline, so that way if they also have combat tricks, like you're against like Demacia Targon, and you know they're going to be playing sharp sights, you can play Twin Disciplines to counteract either by giving your unit more attack if they're a quick attack unit, or giving your unit more health. Those are really, really the key cards into mid-range. And against control matchup, the cards you really want to see are, again, Sivir, Flurryfist, and Zed, and Twin Disciplines. So Zed Twin Disciplines is really, really nuts, especially against the Freljord control decks like Thralls, TLC, Field of Rush, all of your Shadow Isle Freljord control decks. Zed Twin Disciplines basically ends the game on turn 3. Like, you just collect your free win, collect your LP, and then go to the next game. Outside of that, against things that are like more mid-rangey control, like the Draven Ezreals, the TF Swains, you're really going to want to find Sivirs, and then you still want Twin Disciplines, but more or less you're just going to want these like larger units. Like, you're going to want 3 Ruin Runners. I will always keep a Ruin Runner in my hand if I'm against like a slow mid-rangey style deck, because you just go, okay, slam this Ruin Runner, give it a bunch of attack, or give it quick attack, or give it double attack and stuff like that. And this card alone will carry all of your games against the slower decks, like the slower mid-range and the slower control decks. So those are going to be your generalized mulligans against each archetype. And again, you know, I'm going to have the full matchup guide for all of the major tier 1 decks and some of the tier 2 decks in my Discord. So that's gonna be for this deck guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have another deck that you want a deck guide for dummies on, make sure to let me know in the comments below. I stream on Twitch almost every day at around 8, 9, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do coaching, so hit me up for coaching in there, and I'll see you guys in the next video.